This is the Impulsive Thinker Podcast, a show for high-achieving ADHD entrepreneurs. Together, we will inform and educate you about how to improve your self-awareness while developing systems, routines, and habits for conquering the entrepreneurial world. Here is your host, Andre Brisson.
Hey there, this week we're talking with Chad Jenkins, and he's the founder of SeedSpark and SeedSpark Academy, and soon to be SeedSpark Collective. And we were talking about his book called Just Add a Zero: Remove the Film, Outperform Your Competition, Grow Exponentially Through Collaboration. And we had a good chat about just adding a zero and also his film concept, which is friction identification to leverage market. And I really like the term the friction because I think it's subtle enough that it really clarifies a lot of stuff. And I think we should be worrying about friction versus actually looking for frustrations and obstacles. And I'll go more in detail a bit later. But another fancy word that Chad brought up, and it's in his book, when I read it, it was really interesting, is triboluminescence. Okay, so the actual definition, according to Google, it's the phenomenon that materials could emit light when they are mechanically stimulated, such as rubbing, grinding, impacted, stretching, and compression. So you can easily say it's friction, grinding, impact, a little bit of friction there can create light. And what I took out of that was actually friction. If you want to look at it from a positive point of view, it is frustrating, it can be annoying, but friction can be converted into light. So any friction in your business, in your life, even frustrations and obstacles can be converted into energy as long as you're harnessing that friction to convert it into energy that's going to be useful for you, for your clients, and for anyone around you, okay? And by doing that is using his concept of removing the film. Again, film is friction identification to leverage market. So in order for us to remove the film is we got to identify the friction. And the friction could be any little thing that's just not working well. It's not, it could be improved. Or like he said, human nature, everyone complains. It just seems like to be a default. So if you're listening and you're paying attention and you're not assuming what is good for people, you can hear everyone's friction. They will tell you, how can you take that friction, all right, remove the film, remove the friction, and then leverage the market with it. So for me, every big obstacle I had or any big mistake or fall I had, I always took it as an opportunity to grow. And that's why when I read about him saying about look for friction and frustration, in a way you can argue they're the same, but they're different. My thinking is friction is more situational, process driven, while frustration is definitely emotional. And you start blaming people, or it's directed to a person. It's very hard to be frustrated with a process or procedure. I think that's where the friction is. And also, I think there's a difference between friction and obstacle. Obstacle is something, to me, they just put in, just happen to get in front of you. Sometimes you put that obstacle there yourself, or the obstacle just shows up. But the friction is not an obstacle. It could be the early warning of an obstacle, but it's the friction. If we're looking for the friction, they're easy to fix. And I think it's easier to have a bigger impact on the people about it. All right. Now, another thing Chad said in his book that really hit me, and I really like this because he says, always remember, the only thing that matters is how other people see their future and how you can help them with that future. So people aren't hiring you because you're awesome and fantastic and they're doing it for you. No. Usually people are looking for your support or help, or they hire you to do something because it's going to improve their future, and it's just their future they're concerned about. And honestly, that's the reality of it. I'm concerned about my future first, always. As much as people say, hey, I put everyone else first, but honestly, if you're going to get help or support for something, it's because you're concerned about your future and you've got a certain vision of the future. And how are you going to help me with my future? And I think this is where a lot of the confusion occurs with entrepreneurs and salespeople is now it becomes about their future. I'm going to help you so you can improve my future. More bigger commission, gets me a promotion. If I do this a certain way, that benefits me. So it's about my future, not the future of the customer. And that makes a big difference. And when I read that, and based on the conversation we had with them this week, if I concern myself about their future and worry only about their future, how can I help them with that future? Well, why are they coming to you? They're coming to you because of friction. They do not know how to remove that film of friction. So they come to you for help. So if you're listening, you can hear and identify the friction that you can remove for them, because now that improves their future, and that's what you're doing is to help them remove the filter so they can have a better future. And that's how I think you get repeat clients, repeat business, is because if you make it about them and their future, they're going to come back for more, or they'll recommend to someone else for you to help them with them. I've always done this. I just never had it in this context, but even just that slight twist of a word, future, how other people see their future. See their future is the big differentiator here. I've always been, I'm going to help you achieve the goal you want. But I never went so far to the depth of them seeing it. So what matters is how other people see their future. See it. So understand what they are seeing in the future and what they want to see. And then how can you remove that friction for them to achieve that goal in the future? And at the same time, that's a good point. I'm just reading another quote here I had down. He's never let the request dictate the value you create. And that can go along the lines. If the request for your service is A, but when they provide you the vision of their future is B, I think I'm going to want to help with B for them to achieve B, because that's not necessarily what they requested, but the value that I provide is I can see what they actually need versus what they've requested. And I had this chat with my junior today. I always go to a client meeting and I go, hey man, what's going on? I get all the information, and then I say, what do you need? Or what's your request? They'll say, I need this. Thank you very much. That's what we're going to do. We're going to provide you a quote. All right. We come back and I go through all my notes and I go through the conversation. And then the other thing I always ask myself is, okay, here's the thing. This is what they requested. This is what they believe they need or want, that they want. And in the end, I go through is, what do they need in the end? So I ask myself the two questions. What do they want? What did they request? And in the end, what do they need to achieve this? And I never saw that as a way as I was figuring out how they were seeing their future. So that's where a lot of times the request can be completely different than what they need. And I think that's where the value is created, that we can see the difference. And I know you, the listener who's listening, I'm pretty sure we're on the same page. If not, you wouldn't be listening to this podcast. So a lot of great insights here. And removing the film is a huge thing. And if we're looking for friction, I think these little fixes are easier to do than worrying about or trying to fix frustrations and obstacles. So how is this concept of removing the film change your perspective on how to help people, yourself, but at the same time, help other people see their future, and then you help them achieve their future? So thanks again for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. The ADHD Transformation Program has launched, and it's working. Clients are saying it's changed their lives, and I am their ADHD hack. So go to tacticalbts.com/ATJP for more information. I want you to join and learn your own ADHD vocabulary and to learn that you're not stupid and we can make you work effectively.
Thank you for listening to the Impulsive Thinker podcast. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion for the show, please visit theimpulsivethinker.com. The Impulsive Thinker podcast is produced by Tactical Breakthroughs and hosted by Andre Brisson. Remember, ADHD is only a part of you, not all of you.